Quiz time. Do you know the 5 components of literacy? And if you do you understand how they are all connected together and are all extremely vital to teach regardless of what grade you teach? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today. So stay tuned as we do a very quick, brief overview of the 5 components of literacy. And especially at the end, we're going to talk about why they all need to be taught in every single grade level. So welcome to the Sierra Harris Teaching Channel. Make sure before we begin to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything new. Upcoming episodes in the Sierra Harris Teaching Channel. I have some great things coming up for the remainder of 2023, and you're not going to want to miss it. So, all right. So the Fab Five is what I love to call it, but the Fab Five of literacy are the 5 essential components that create a true reader, a reader who is masterful, who is able to comprehend deep, complex texts. They have no gaps in any of these areas. So what are the Fab Five? Starts with phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. So right now, there's a big shift between balanced literacy and structured literacy. And if you haven't watched my past episode, I'll put a picture of it right here. You can head back and watch that so you can start to tell the difference between what is balanced literacy and what is structured literacy. Structured literacy is what's being pushed right now with the science of reading. And basically, it's saying that in structured literacy, we need to be explicitly teaching all 5 of the literacy components, regardless of what grade you teach, okay? Because we're going to have students that have holes and gaps in these areas, and as elementary teachers who are building readers, we need to make sure that we are able to identify these gaps, fill the gaps, and explicitly teach this content or these standards, these components, to make sure that our readers are successful when they go on into middle school. So we're going to quickly just go through what these components are. And then, like I said, at the end, we're really going to talk about why it's important that they're all taught and what they do, what kind of magic happens when they're all taught together. All right. So let's start with number 1, the most foundational literacy skill of all, phonemic awareness. So what is phonemic awareness? Well, let's break it down. So phonemic awareness is the recognition that words are constructed with individual sounds, and those sounds are also known as phonemes, all right? And this is a very crucial auditory skill that predicates actual reading. Again, this comes way before students are even able to read. This is typically why it's taught, obviously, in more preschool, kindergarten, first grade classes. However, there are definitely students who are in upper elementary, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade who have deficiencies in phonemic awareness. So why is phonemic awareness so important? Well, this foundational skill is pivotal in a child's reading journey because it really lays the groundwork. Like, that's why I keep calling it foundational. It lays the groundwork for understanding of how sounds form words, and it really sets students up for success later in their elementary career or in their career in general. So it is one of the most important skills that students are going to learn to help make sure they are successful readers later on in life, okay? All right, component number 2 is phonics. So what is phonics? And I will be the first to say that early in my education career, I honestly thought phonics and phonemic awareness were the exact same thing. And I think this has to do with us focusing in such a balanced literacy model in the past that we weren't explicitly teaching these components. So I really did think phonics and phonemic awareness were like interchangeable terminologies, and they're not. They are very, very different. So phonemic awareness, again, is the auditory. So phonics is the systematic relationship then between the letters, which are the graphemes, in our written language, and the sounds or the phonemes from phonemic awareness in our spoken language. So it's really the connector there between the graphemes and the phonemes. So why is this important? I think it's pretty obvious. Through phonics, our students are learning to decode, we also call that sounding out, but in reality, it's decoding words, and they're transforming these abstract syllables letters, right, into meaningful words on a page. And so this skill is very integral for reading fluently, and also for things like spelling and writing. So phonics is, again, one of the more crucial foundational skills where even in your upper elementary grades, you're going to find students who have gaps in this area. And you may not think that it's a phonics issue or a phonemic awareness issue. You may think that it's a comprehension issue or a fluency issue, but when you break it down and you truly understand the 5 components and how they're all connected and connect to each other, then you're able to see the gaps more clearly. All right, so let's go on to number 3. We are on literacy component number 3 of the Fab 5, and that is fluency. So fluency, I'm sure, again, we all know what the definition is, but just in case, fluency pertains to a reader's capacity to read a text accurately, swiftly, and with proper expression, kind of turning the act of reading into this like seamless, enjoyable experience. And fluency, I consider the bridge between the first 2 components of literacy, phonemic awareness and phonics, and connecting it to the latter half of the 5 components, which is vocabulary and comprehension. So fluency, that middle piece there, is like the bridge connecting the 2. And so a fluent reader, if they're able to understand phonemic awareness and they can decode words, then they can focus on understanding the content rather than laboring over every single word. So if you have a student who isn't fluent, most likely it's due to deficits in phonemic awareness and phonics, not necessarily vocabulary, not necessarily a comprehension issue, definitely a connector there. So really looking at the order of these, I think, really matters, because you have to have like step 1, first component, before you can have and solidify step 2, and so on and so forth. So fluency is that middle bridge. I think it's extremely important that we recognize that. All right, component number 4 is vocabulary. Again, pretty sure we all know what it is, but just in case, and make sure we're all on the same page. Vocabulary, simply put, is the bank of words that a person knows and can use, whether they're listening, whether they're writing, or whether they're reading. So really, it builds off of their background knowledge and their schema and their life experiences. And so vocabulary is really important because a robust vocabulary is instrumental for understanding a text. You never know what kind of words students are going to be presented on in a text, so ensuring that they have a robust vocabulary to rely on and to use for comprehension is really important. So as readers encounter diverse materials with lots of different words, a vast vocabulary allows them to interpret the text and to engage with the content more effectively, more efficiently. So the research, of course, tells us that if a student isn't read to, they're not spoken to, or have rich conversations at home, then their vocabulary entering kindergarten is already at an all-time low, and they're already going to have a hard time catching up with their peers who have had rich conversations and who have been exposed to text on a regular basis. Number 5, our very last component of the Fab 5 of literacy, is comprehension. And so comprehension, of course, is the pinnacle of reading. It's the ability, of course, to understand, interpret, and glean meaning from a text. And it really is our overall objective. Like when we think about what is reading, reading is comprehension. Reading is making meaning of the text and applying it to our life, taking things away from the text, what the author wants us to take away or what we take away. If they don't comprehend, really none of the other stuff matters. We, in reality, as teachers, we can be doing everything right. We can set up all of the phonemic awareness lessons accurately. We can be teaching phonics. We can have fluent readers. We can be focusing on vocabulary. But if we're not teaching our students to be thinkers while they read, then in reality, they're going to come up to a text, have everything correct except for not being able to comprehend. So it's really important that even as in early grades, we're teaching all of these components of literacy in our structured reading block, that we are still focusing on comprehension. So If I'm a kindergarten teacher and I'm focusing hard on phonemic awareness and phonics, I'm still focusing on the fact that when we read, we think and we comprehend. If I'm a fifth grade teacher, I'm doing the same thing, but then I'm also connecting it back to the early pieces of literacy and ensuring that my students know that I, as a skilled reader, have these phonemic awareness and phonics skills that I can rely on to decode these big multisyllabic words that can help me then understand the text that I am presented with. So that kind of starts our conversation into how are all of these things connected and why is it so important that really, regardless of the grade that I teach, that I'm teaching everything. So the first thing is it creates this broad spectrum of literacy. When I have all 5 components, I have this spectrum of what literacy really is and what it takes to be a skilled reader. And so ignoring any single component can create blind spots in a child's literacy abilities. So a comprehensive approach, a structured literacy approach, ensures that students are more well-equipped and they are not creating any gaps or deficiencies in all of the facets of reading and writing. So that broad spectrum of literacy is really important, that's the experience that we are creating for them. Another important reason why we should be teaching all 5 is to help adapt to the diverse needs of our students. So if you think about your students, regardless of, again, what grade you teach, your students who are coming into you, they have such a wide range of skill sets. And so you're going to have students who are coming to you who need more comprehension support. And it's evident that they are phonics and phonemic awareness, they're fluent readers. Maybe they need some vocab, help there, but really comprehension is their need. But then you're going to have students who struggle with comprehension, but when you really break it down, they have deficiencies in phonics and phonemic awareness or fluency. So understanding and utilizing all 5 components of literacy really helps educators better tailor our instruction to meet the individual needs of all of our students, ensuring that no student is falling behind. Another important thing about utilizing and focusing on all 5 components is that it really helps to build resilient readers. And what I mean by that is when students are really well versed in all 5 components of literacy, they are better equipped to tackle unfamiliar and challenging texts. What that means is if I have a student who understands that they're skilled in 5 different areas, they understand phonemic awareness and phonics, they are fluent readers, they know what fluency is, and they know how it's important and why it's important. They understand the need of vocabulary, and they understand what comprehension is, meaning like they need to be active readers. When they have this solid foundation of all 5 components, they're more confident tackling these complex texts. They're able to look a standardized text in the face and say, you've got nothing on me, I can do this. Because when they come across a word they don't know, they're going to know how to break it apart. They're going to know how to decode it. They're going to know how to look for word parts and look for the meanings behind those word parts and look for vocabulary that will help them, look for context clues. They're going to understand that as I read, I need my brain to be actively thinking and connecting and asking questions and synthesizing and making meaning of this text. So when we focus on all 5 components explicitly in our instruction, we're building these really resilient readers. And then the next thing I want to mention is that then leads to long-term academic success. We have to remember that we're not just setting our students up for success for the very next grade, but we're really setting them up for success for their entire careers. So whether we're sending them to middle school or we're sending them to high school, or even thinking about beyond that, beyond high school, thinking about undergrad and grad and whatever career that their lives take them to, what we're doing now in this literacy foundation that we are building for them, it's really setting their trajectory up for success later on. And also, it really helps to make sure that we are cultivating those lifelong learners. So by ensuring proficiency in all 5 of the components of literacy, we are not just teaching our students to read, right? But we are more nurturing those the curiosity behind them, their curious minds, and these lifelong learners that we are then hoping to put out into society and then create a better society for ourselves. So all in all, I think the message today is very clear. 5 components of literacy: phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, all are essential in our literacy or reading block. And if we're teaching 5th grade, yes, the emphasis that we put on maybe some of those earlier steps is not as heavy as the early elementary grade levels, but they still should be present. We still should be able to identify which of our students needs these supports and put routines and procedures in small groups or whatever it may be in place to support those gaps. Because if we just ignore them and say like, oh, this is just a comprehension issue, I'm just going to drill comprehension, and never really get down to the nitty-gritty of where these gaps are occurring, then we're really not building skilled readers. We're not setting them up for success later on in life. And that's really what we're here for. So if you have any questions about the 5 components of literacy, I would love to hear them. Make sure to drop them in the comments below. And if you would like more videos like this on the 5 components, then I'm happy to do so. Just let me know by commenting, by giving me a thumbs up on the video, and that lets me know that this is content that you enjoyed watching and that I should make more of stuff like this, more videos like this. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed learning about the 5 components of literacy today, and I will see you over in the next video. Bye, everyone.